Hello everyone, Spectre here. This will be the first in a series of videos diving into games in a retrospective format. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. The year is 2024. Call of Duty has just released its most recent entry into the Modern Warfare series to mixed reception, to say the least. While its multiplayer is fun, its campaign, lackluster support for zombies, and its inability to make crucial changes to the skill-based matchmaking systems have ultimately damaged community trust. While Call of Duty is still an extremely successful franchise, it is clear to see that the Modern Warfare series has fallen from grace. This recent decline has made me take a look back at the original Modern Warfare games to see how the franchise has gotten to where it is today. From a simple World War II game for PC to a gaming juggernaut. Join me as we take a dive into the history and development behind Call of Duty's first entry into the modern setting. Let's take a journey through Call of Duty Modern Warfare. World War II has more media depictions than anyone can view in a lifetime, one of the most famous being Saving Private Ryan. What many don't know is that the man responsible for Saving Private Ryan is also partially responsible for the creation of Call of Duty, this man being Steven Spielberg. Knowing that Saving Private Ryan would only get a more mature audience, he wanted to find a way to bring a similar experience to a younger crowd. He tasked his studio DreamWorks Interactive to make a World War II FPS game. This resulted in the creation of 1999's Medal of Honor for the PS1, developed by DreamWorks Interactive and published by EA. While Medal of Honor's absence may have tarnished the series' reputation, back in the early 2000s it was the World War II shooter. It hit the peak of its popularity with 2002's Medal of Honor Allied Assault, developed by 2015 Games. While critically and financially it was a massive success, the studio working on the game had a different story. EA has had a history of buying out game studios and rebranding them. The original developers who made Medal of Honor, DreamWorks Interactive, were bought out and rebranded to EA Los Angeles, and 2015 Games appeared to be next on the list. Growing unhappy with their contract with EA, as well as being afraid to lose their identity, Vince Zampella, Jason West, Grant Collier, along with several members of the team, left the studio and formed Infinity Ward. The trio would put out an SOS to the gaming industry, looking for a new publisher. It wouldn't be long before Activision entered the picture. After signing with Activision, Infinity Ward went straight to work. While many would believe that Infinity Ward wanted to compete with its former publisher due to Call of Duty's similar subject matter, this is actually not the case, as the original concept for Call of Duty was of a game depicting modern warfare. However, Activision wanted to throw their hat in the ring for the World War II genre. Activision brought the idea of Call of Duty to Infinity Ward. Many sources noted at the time that Activision didn't say they were launching a game or series, but a franchise, and Activision spared no expense in making sure Call of Duty was a force to be reckoned with, hiring Hollywood actors and buying TV ads, which at the time was unheard of for a PC exclusive. All of this culminated on October 29th, 2003 with the release of Call of Duty. Call of Duty was released exclusively for the PC and received critical acclaim upon release, winning several Game of the Year awards and selling 790,000 copies, earning $29.6 million by August of 2006. After a few expansions, a sequel was in order. The idea of modern warfare would once again come into the fray. At the time, games like Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, and Counter-Strike were dominating the modern shooter genre. Additionally, almost all games depicting modern conflicts were exclusively tactical shooters, which Call of Duty was not. But before work could begin, Microsoft entered the conversation.
And now the time has come. You've waited long enough. I give you the future of gaming.
Due to the rough development of Halo 2, Bungie would not be able to release Halo 3 in time for the launch of the Xbox 360. With Microsoft's heavy hitter out of the game, Microsoft needed a big first-person shooter at launch. Microsoft wanted the sequel to Call of Duty to fill this gap. This put Infinity Ward in a tough spot. They wouldn't have enough time to make a modern shooter before launch. However, if they were to make a World War II sequel, they could reuse assets from the first Call of Duty to save time. So, they had two options: continue their plans and make a modern game for PC only, or go back to the World War II setting and make a game for both PC and console. While the team wanted to make a modern game, they saw the benefits of working with Microsoft, a larger audience, and more importantly, development kits for the next generation of consoles. This resulted in the World War II setting for Call of Duty 2, and it receiving a primetime spot as an Xbox 360 launch title. Call of Duty 2 was released on October 25, 2005 for PC and November 22, 2005 for the Xbox. The game was even more successful than the first, being the most popular launch title for the Xbox 360, selling 200,000 units in its first week alone. While it was incredibly successful, Halo could still generate more hype and conversation with a trailer than the entirety of the Call of Duty series combined. It was hard to convince players to choose a World War II game simply based on its premise. They didn't want to be an average soldier, they would much rather be a cool space marine or special forces. To compete with Halo, they decided to start a sci-fi project codenamed HK, short for Halo Killer. However, it would get scrapped early on in development, not getting past the conception phase. While the idea for a Call of Duty game set in space would be revisited years later, Activision still needed another sequel. But due to time restraints, the development was put in the hands of a support studio named Treyarch. And with only 8 months of development time, Call of Duty 3 was released on November 7th, 2006. While most of the games in the series up until this point were received positively, Call of Duty 3 was the first mainline title to receive mostly mixed reception. Despite the game's quality, people were getting tired of the World War II setting, and Activision got the message. And to Infinity Ward's delight, they greenlit Modern Warfare. Infinity Ward's productivity skyrocketed after the news. For the first time, they were making a game that they wanted to make, and not something that they were forced to. The team at Infinity Ward consisted of about 100 people. They decided to center the game around small-scale special operations. However, after numerous playtests, the players felt that the game was too boring and slow, being more James Bond as opposed to Black Hawk Down. Infinity Ward, being disappointed in what they had, decided to restructure a majority of the levels and have the game shift focus to being more action-oriented. What many don't realize is that a lot of features that would appear in later entries in the series were initially intended to make their debut in Modern Warfare. The idea of having a slow-motion door breach and civilians were tested and partially completed. However, these ideas were ultimately left on the cutting room floor. Another idea was to have the player pilot a Cobra helicopter during one of the American missions, but once more, this mission was cut. Additionally, there was an entirely new protagonist that was supposed to be part of the American missions, named Michael Carver. During one of his missions, the player would have been tasked with identifying al-Assad with a parabolic microphone. From these earlier versions of the game, it appeared that the Americans would have played a bigger role in the story. While cut content is nothing new in the gaming industry, it showed just how ambitious the team was, and how the change of setting ultimately allowed the team to experiment with new ideas that were not possible in the original games. The game was unveiled on April 28, 2007 with a reveal trailer. While the trailer is known as iconic now, at the time it didn't draw much attention to the game. This changed when the multiplayer beta was released and players started to develop an addiction that the developers had in the studio. The gaming industry would forever change on November 5th, 2007 with the release of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare is widely regarded as one of the greatest FPS campaigns of all time, and for good reason. Its captivating campaign and fun gameplay made for a fantastic experience. Call of Duty 4 was the first Call of Duty game that I played, and I remember only being able to play through a few missions at a time, and looking forward to getting back on and continuing the story. Additionally, I did not have Xbox Live at the time, so the campaign was my main focus. Recently, I have kind of made it a habit of going back and revisiting games and movies from my childhood, and seeing if they still hold up. Often, they don't. It has been roughly about 10 years since I last played through the campaign, and I was really looking forward to re-experiencing it. What I was not expecting was to play through it all in one sitting. Also, just kind of on a quick side note, I played both the original and the remaster, and my thoughts and opinions go for both games. Now, Getting back to what I was saying, its narrative and pacing have held up incredibly well, and honestly, it still ranks as one of the best Call of Duty games of all time, and clearly, I'm not the only one who holds this opinion. The campaign opens with a debriefing between Captain Price and Gaz. During this meeting, the player gets brought up to speed on the world of modern warfare, a civil war in Russia, instability in the Middle East, and 15,000 nukes at stake, and more importantly, your first day on the regiment. During the game, you take up the role of John Soap McTavish, a brand new member of the British Special Air Service, or SAS. After completing a quick tutorial and showing off your fruit killing skills,
your fruit killing skills are remarkable.
The player meets up with Captain Price and the rest of the team, and Price asks a question that many of the players were likely thinking from the beginning.
What the hell kind of name is Soap, eh?
That even though you were part of the team, you are still very much the new guy and will have to earn your place on the team. Another example of this is in some of the dialogue that can be heard after completing the CQB test.
Not bad, but not that good either.
This brings me to another highlight of the game, the CQB test. During this test, you run through a mock-up of the cargo ship mission. Your objective is to complete it in under 60 seconds. However, after you beat it, you can go back to try and get a better score. While it may be overlooked as a simple tutorial, the ability to run through the test again makes for a fun challenge. Many players, myself included, spent several minutes or in some cases hours trying to get the best score. This simple formula would not only go on to inspire tutorials of other games, but other games in the Modern Warfare series. After completing the CQB test, you get sent on your first real mission. Your team has received intel from a Russian informant that a nuclear device is on board a cargo ship located in the Bering Strait. This ship has a small crew and security detail on board. Your rules of engagement: crew expendable. After fast roping onto the ship, your team swiftly clears out the bridge. As your team moves through the ship, you get a chance to soak in the atmosphere. While it isn't anything unique, it helps you get immersed into the world. It doesn't just feel like a generic multiplayer location. Anyway, getting back to the mission, you fight your way through the ship. However, before you can secure the device, you get word that Russian MiGs are moving in to scuttle the ship. With little time, you secure the manifest and move topside. Before you can get far, the ship gets hit. What ensues is a tense race to make it to the top of the ship before the ship sinks. While Call of Duty is now known for its over-the-top action sequences, Modern Warfare doesn't go overboard and still keeps the world grounded. This is one of Modern Warfare's biggest strengths: its restraint. The next mission has the player see through the eyes of Yazir al-Falani during a military coup. During this mission, we watch as Khalid al-Assad's forces take control of the region. During this mission, al-Falani gets executed on live television, prompting American intervention. But before we can join the Americans, we still have one more mission with the SAS. During the mission Blackout, we learn that Nikolai, the informant on the cargo ship mission, is in danger, and Price and the team are deployed to rescue him. One thing to note is that the visuals in this mission are fantastic. Everything from the fog to the foliage, as well as the sound design, is absolutely phenomenal, and something that frankly, I feel it gets overlooked. Getting back to the mission, we sneak our way to the village before running into some company. We meet up with Sergeant Kamarov and the Russian loyalist forces. After Price calls in a favor, Kamarov and his forces agree to help the team get to Nikolai. After fighting your way through the village, you secure Nikolai and make your way to the exfil point. Nikolai asks if the Americans have started their assault, before warning that the Americans are making a big mistake, foreshadowing a major event. Next, we step into the role of Sergeant Paul Jackson with the United States Marine Corps' 1st Force Recon Company. After the execution of Yazir al-Falani, U.S. forces are deployed to capture Khalid al-Assad. During the mission Charlie Don't Surf, you were deployed to assist in the hunt for al-Assad. After searching through multiple buildings and fighting through the streets, you get word that al-Assad is held up in a nearby TV station. After fighting your way through the TV station, you discover that al-Assad was never there and was broadcasting remotely. However, before you can continue the hunt, you and your squad get reassigned. An M1 Abrams tank, callsign Warpig, is disabled and is under heavy enemy fire. Your team is ordered to move in and secure the area. Once secured, Warpig will be able to be repaired, and from here will assist you and your squad as you continue to hunt for Al-Assad. From here, we jump back to Price and the SAS back in the helicopter. As it turns out, instead of being able to exfil back to base, your helicopter gets shot down. With search parties closing in on you, you and the rest of the team continue to move out on foot and evade detection. However, you eventually get spotted, leading to a shootout. But as it turns out, you aren't without backup. An AC-130 Spectre gunship, callsign Warhammer, is on station and ready to provide support. We get a first-hand perspective at just how devastating this gunship is, which will ultimately help us prepare for the next mission. This leads me into one of the coolest and my personal favorite missions in the game. During the mission Death from Above, you take control of an AC-130 and provide support to Price and the rest of the team. Once again, the visuals and audio design is incredible. Looking at footage from a real AC-130, it is incredible just how realistic it is. Even looking at later entries in the series, they all pale in comparison in terms of realism. As mentioned earlier, you get to see the destruction caused by the gunship from the ground, and now with the controls in your hand, you have a much better idea of how much power you have. While I always thought that this mission was cool, it is interesting looking online and seeing that some people had a very different opinion on the mission. In fact, many found that the mission was disturbing. Many claimed that its realism was what made it so uncomfortable. And what I found even more surprising was that this sentiment was also shared by some of the developers. Looking at this mission's reception, it made me start to think, how is the player meant to interpret this mission? What if this mission wasn't meant to be just another set piece, but was meant to make the player think? Regardless of the context, it is still one of my all-time favorite Call of Duty missions. Before talking about this next mission, I think it's important that we first talk about the gaming landscape at the time. I already mentioned that most games had you playing as some sort of an action hero or something along those lines. You were always the hero of the story, and more importantly, you couldn't lose. Sure, you may fail a level, but you were always meant to win. The hero was always meant to win. So the mission Shock and Awe was a massive plot twist that many players didn't see coming. During this mission, you and your squad push your way to Al-Assad's palace. However, as you are moving in, you get word that a nuclear warhead could be present in the city. And after fighting your way through the city, you get informed by command that a SEAL team has confirmed the presence of a nuclear warhead. You are ordered to evacuate the area immediately. And as your team is leaving the area, a Cobra goes down. And after being advised that your team is not at a safe distance, you go back anyway to try and rescue the pilot. With the clock running down, you fight your way to the Cobra and rescue the pilot. But as you are flying away,
Everyone, hang on!
this is the most pivotal moment in modern warfare. With this single moment, it raised the stakes and defied the player's expectations. Instead of rescuing the pilot and getting back to base, you fail. You and the rest of your team witness the destruction caused by the nuke as you slowly die. This moment shocked many players at the time. What is really interesting is just how much the game warns you about what is going to happen. Everything from Nikolai saying that the Americans are making a mistake to command telling you that you are not at a safe distance. Shock and Awe may have been the name of the mission, but that's what the mission did to the players, leaving the player shocked and in awe. After the detonation in the Middle East, Nikolai informs the team of a potential location for Al-Assad, a safe house in Azerbaijan. Once on the ground, your team meets up with loyalist forces and you push your way through the village. As you are moving through the village, you encounter heavy enemy resistance. However, with the help of some air support, you were able to clear them out. After clearing out the village, you find Al-Assad in a barn. With Al-Assad in custody, your team interrogates him to find out where he got the nuclear warhead. During the interrogation, Al-Assad gets a phone call to which Price answers, and without a single word, he executes Al-Assad. As it turns out, the man on the other end of the line was Imran Zakhaev. We then proceed to have a flashback with Captain Price during the 1990s in Chernobyl. As it turns out, this wasn't Price's first encounter with Zakhaev. Price and his commanding officer, McMillan, were sent in to assassinate Zakhaev to prevent him from selling nuclear materials during an arms deal. The mission sees the player take up the role of a young Captain Price. During this mission, you sneak your way through enemy forces before getting to a vantage point. Once there, you get on a Barrett 50 cal and line up the shot on Zakhaev. However, due to the wind, you miss your shot and blow off Zakhaev's arm. With your presence now known, enemy forces begin to swarm your position. What proceeds is an intense chase to get to the extraction point. However, on the way there, McMillan gets hurt, requiring you to carry him. The mission ends with you and McMillan making it to the extraction point and holding off enemy forces until help can arrive. Jumping back to the present, we learn that enemy forces are closing in and help won't be able to arrive for a little bit longer. We set up an ambush and hold out until help can arrive. With the news that Imran Zakhaev is behind the nuke, the team locates his son Viktor Zakhaev with hopes that he can provide the location of his father. With the help of the Americans, you set up an ambush. However, before you can get to Viktor, he escapes on foot. Eventually, you catch up with him on the rooftop of an apartment building. However, before you can take him into custody, he removes himself from the equation. Furious about his son's death, Imran Zakhaev retaliates by storming a missile launch site and threatening to launch the nukes at the United States and its allies. With Zakhaev's location, the team are airdropped near the launch site. However, during the landing, Sergeant Griggs gets separated and ultimately captured. Your team are able to rescue Griggs and move on to the launch site. However, once you meet up with the American sniper team, 2 missiles are fired. With nukes now in the air, it is vital for your team to storm the site and enter the abort codes. With millions of lives at stake, you fight your way through the site, clearing out multiple corridors before reaching the control room. Once there, you are able to enter the abort codes. Before you can celebrate this victory, Zakhaev is on the move, and with all of his remaining forces closing in, you need to escape. What ensues is an intense car chase. With enemy trucks and air support closing in, you have to try and hold them off. Before you can escape, enemy air support blows up the bridge. With no support and nowhere left to run, you and your team make your final stand. During the fight, a fuel tank blows up, knocking out your team. Zakhaev arrives to finish the job, killing most of your squad. But before he can get to you and Price, Sergeant Kamarov arrives with some air support. With Zakhaev distracted, Price slides his trusty 1911 to you. Now that I've talked about the story, what are my thoughts on the game? Honestly, I don't have many complaints. I felt that the game was really good. There were a few plot points here and there that I wasn't the biggest fan of, in particular the fact that no one checked any of Al-Assad's other safe houses being the main one. I do wonder if this plot point was meant to be explained during some of Modern Warfare's cut content, but as it is, it just feels really jarring. From 1 minute, no one knows where he is, to all of a sudden, you know exactly where he is with no explanation. While it is an issue, it isn't big enough to ruin the story. Overall, Modern Warfare is one of the best Call of Duty games of all time. Everything from its style, to the pacing, to the atmosphere, everything is just great. Honestly, one of my favorite things about Modern Warfare is its feel. It feels authentic and like something that you would see on the news. Everything from the gear to how the characters are animated really helped me get immersed into this world. This leads me into some of the more modern entries in the series. I feel like this overall lack of immersion is part of my problem with some of these newer games. This isn't something that's just exclusive to multiplayer either. I feel like it's just something with the writing on the newer games that has the player as more of a superhero as opposed to just another soldier. While this could be traced back to the original Modern Warfare 2, I feel like this problem has really gotten out of hand with more recent entries. I won't go too far into the subject just because I can go on and on with this, and I intend to make it its own video. But I still wanted to address it here. I will say that I feel like this general area is something that Treyarch excels at, and with the release of Black Ops 6 around the corner, I'm really looking forward to the future of this franchise. Now, you may be wondering, where's the multiplayer section? Why didn't you talk about multiplayer? Well, the answer's simple. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I never got a chance to play the game's multiplayer as a kid, and honestly, I haven't really played it until recently. And if I'm going to be talking about the game, I would much rather get more experience with it. Now that being said, I do eventually plan on releasing a video covering the game's multiplayer at a later date. If you made it to this far in the video, thank you. This is the first video on the channel, and I look forward to doing more like this. If you enjoyed what you watched, be sure to like and subscribe. All of your support means the world to me. So with that, have a wonderful day. This is your host Spectre, signing off.
Thanks for watching.